The Disney live-action Snow White is a soulless, boring, unfocused, nonsensical, indulgent, unenjoyable slog. Now, such a statement might make me look like a prejudiced hater, but truly, if this film was good, I would praise it. One of my favourite films ever made is the Disney live-action Cinderella, one of the most wholesome, uplifting, inspiring, and heartfelt films ever made. And which stands as the gold standard for live-action fairy tale films and contrasts so devastatingly to the live-action Snow White and exposes how hollow and pathetic it really is, by demonstrating just how much Disney has lost their way. The worst parts of Snow White are its plot, the hollow payoffs where everything just goes Snow White's way without her actually earning any achievement. The look of the film feels completely fake, the dwarves are nightmare fuel and very annoying and never funny. There's a hilariously and astronomically bad, cringe musical number by Gal Gadot. I'm not kidding, it's almost as cringe as the musical number by the evil queen in the Disney Descendants movie series.
Don't you wanna be evil like me? Don't you wanna be mean?
But the issue is that musical number was actually meant to be cringe. And please don't judge me for knowing about the Descendants movie series. I have kids, okay? They've watched it. I've seen it by proxy, okay? The climax and conclusion of the film is complete nonsense, and then there's Rachel Zegler herself. Because she's such a hateful, spoiled brat in real life, seeing her attempt to pretend to be a kind-hearted person requires more suspension of disbelief than telling myself that the moon is made of cheese. She does pull off entitled, stuck-up and selfish perfectly fine, although I don't think she deserves much credit there because she didn't really need to act those parts at all.
I'm a narcissist.
But seriously, this is the woman who wished for half of America to never know peace because they supported the Orange Man. That's an extreme level of spiteful cruelty right there. Far beyond someone dying, she wants the people she dislikes to go on in misery and torment, to never know peace. That's what that means. And yes, she apologized for that statement, but forgive me if I don't think it was genuine, especially in light of her pattern of behavior. She has a history of acting like a spiteful, hateful cow, from stoking further hate against Gina Carano when the cancel mob went after Carano for not putting pronouns in her bio when the hate mob demanded that she bend the knee. Zegler also attacked the original Snow White animation, saying the prince is a stalker. She's expressed that she's entitled to more money for wearing a princess dress on top of the bucket loads of money she's already getting, oblivious to the reality that a lot of people wear far more uncomfortable things for far less than what she is getting paid.
If I'm gonna stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
She also compares herself to a work of art, specifically the Winged Victory statue, and she said it in this weird, self-indulgent non-apology.
To everyone who hates when I win, the Winged Victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
But what I think demonstrates who Rachel Zegler is best is this little video here with the text "Respect women today and every day," while at the same time giving everyone the finger. What an astounding display of entitlement where she demands respect based on nothing but the fact that she is a woman while explicitly disrespecting everyone else. The hypocrisy, arrogance, and narcissism is just astounding.
I'm a narcissist.
She gets to treat you like garbage while demanding special treatment for herself. It's utterly insufferable. So yes, anything with Rachel Zegler in it is hard enough to suffer through. It's like salt in the wound because the film is bad enough on its own. And a lot of what makes this film worse is its divergence from the original animation. You see, there are some flaws in the old fairy tales and Disney animations that when adapted to live action you would want to fix. And you can do this with the natural expansion of the world that usually happens in live action adaptations, such as actually giving the Prince of Cinderella a name.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kid.
There you are, your heart.
It's Kid, I'm on my way.
And a full and authentic personality and story arc that complements the overall plot. and demonstrates how Cinderella and the prince fall in love in their first meeting so quickly and how perfectly suited they are to one another.
It's that wonderful girl. I can't stop thinking about her. And her spirit, her goodness.
I don't suppose she has a sister, do you?
Seriously, the meeting of the prince, named Kit, and Cinderella in the live action is such a masterpiece that I made a whole video exploring it on Shadiversity. The scene is truly brilliant. Contrast this with the Snow White live action, where nearly every time they expand the world and characters, the film creates plot holes, inconsistencies, and convoluted nonsense that does the literal opposite in addressing some of the shortcomings of the original tale, but makes the film actively worse. Some examples of this are, say, The Magic of the Queen, where it actively shows her doing more with her magic, which raises questions as to why doesn't she use that magic when it's more convenient and expedient for her, where it would help her out more. They just kind of forget about that. Then there's the diverse bandit hippies, and how they've been forced into the story and all the implications revolving around them. Then there's the relationship and non-romance of Snow White and the bandit lover boy, which we'll expand on further a bit later. Also, Dopey the dwarf is not stupid anymore, he's just misunderstood, because heaven forbid you have a dumb character there that is dumb for comic relief, because that's just unacceptably ableist in this day and age. And then there are the issues of the expanded conclusion and climax of the film in comparison to the animation. This live-action remake fixes none of the shortcomings of the original animation story, but creates vastly more problems in its attempts to make it more palatable for a modern woke audience. Seriously, several of these changes were obviously done for woke sensibilities, like Snow White now being a girl boss who's willing to fight soldiers and wants to be a leader of her kingdom that will lead a revolution against the wicked queen. The changes they make to Dopey so he doesn't come off as ableist, and the pathetic, barely peck of a kiss to wake Snow White from her eternal sleep, because a proper kiss given to an unconscious woman that has not consented is tantamount to rape. Even though the kiss would be to save her life, and the larger context is that Snow White would happily accept a good old unconscious pash, because they're supposed to be in love, aren't they? Otherwise, true love's kiss wouldn't even work. It's incompetence like this that the film is just filled with, so much so that it doesn't even know what message it wants to give, robbing nearly every single payoff of any justification or authenticity, leaving you with a feeling of emptiness where you wonder why you're even watching this pointless, soulless cash grab, although I don't think this is going to turn out to be the type of cash grab Disney originally wanted. Of course, I would much rather have gotten a good live-action version like the live-action Cinderella. But we don't always get what we want. Sometimes we get spammed with things we don't want, and luckily there's a way we can prevent a lot of that spam coming your way, which is the sponsor of this video. So here's the thing. Your information is actually very valuable. So valuable, in fact, that there are many organizations out in the world that want to get it. And they should not have access to it without your consent, especially if they want to use that information for certain ends or distribute it. This is where Incogni comes in. It is a service that works for you to remove your personal information from many online data centers. In the US, there are even sites called people search sites that have many people's information. Well, through Incogni, you can get your information removed from those sites and many other places where your information could be exploited for nefarious means. This can really help you out against identity theft, scams, harassment, and stalking. It's genuinely a really valuable service. I've literally had people try and impersonate me online. There are real-world examples of massive loans being taken out in other people's names without their knowledge. Your information gets sold to large data brokers as well as your movements online, things you might be interested in, what you're purchasing. That's all valuable information that you should have control over. But Incogni can put an end to so many problems, and you can do it in 3 really simple steps. All you need to do is make an account, give them the ability to take your personal information off these places, and just kick back and let them work for you. It's an ongoing service where they repeatedly make data removal requests while you are signed up for them. They just don't do it once, continually protecting your privacy. It's a genuinely valuable service, especially if you value your privacy. So if you use code KNIGHTS, all in capitals, KNIGHTS, and use the link below, you can get a full 60% off an annual Incogni plan. It's a massive discount, promo code KNIGHTS, all in capitals, KNIGHTS with a K, and protect your personal information online. So thank you to Incogni for sponsoring this video. Alright, now I'm going to point out the major problems of the film, which is your spoiler warning. What I said about the pathetic payoffs is absolutely true, and all films rely on good payoffs to some extent to make it a satisfying experience, which is one of the big reasons this film fails so much. For instance, Snow White has no reason to want to lead her people. She's utterly sheltered and literally says she does not know what is going on in the outside world, and for all she knows, what the Queen is doing is completely justified, and when she learns of some of the issues, she has no real reason to believe them, but her solution is to make them apple pie. I kid you not. Why not just say, let them eat cake at this point, Marie Antoinette? Yeah, she's a real political mastermind here, yet her desire to want to lead the kingdom simply comes from entitlement, because she's meant to, not because she knows she can do a better job or will be better for the people, and already Snow White is coming off as entitled, which is a real achievement because up to this point in the film she's basically a slave. So when Snow White ultimately does become the leader of her kingdom at the end of the film, we don't care. She never showed herself to be good at it, quite the opposite actually, so our investment in this whole primary goal of the character is utterly undermined. The Queen is supposed to be enraged when learning from the mirror that the huntsman didn't kill Snow White, and her rage, the payoff, is undermined by the setup. You see, in the original version, the huntsman gave the evil queen the heart of a pig in place of Snow White's heart, but in this version, instead of a heart being inside the box, it's an apple. Do you see why this doesn't work? That means the Queen never looked inside the box to confirm Snow is dead, which would have been revealed if she simply checked. So now, with this change, the Queen is an idiot that didn't even look inside the box to confirm that the huntsman did the job, and this payoff, the reveal of her pulling out the apple from the box, just makes her look like a moron. The loverboy bandit hippie dude has no reason to fall in love with Snow. Yes, she saved him in the beginning, but when meeting again, she acts like a stuck-up brat, not thanking him for saving her life from the soldiers looking for her. And he clearly expresses his annoyance with her, even going into a full song about annoying princess problems. Their interactions do not come off like opposites attracting or sexual tension. She gives him no reason to like her, even though he tries to justify it later by saying he forgot what it meant to have courage and hope until Snow White showed her what it was. And that Snow White fought for him and didn't give up on him, so he's not going to give up on her. The problem is that none of that actually happened. Snow didn't fight for them. She didn't fight for anyone. All she did was berate him, get some soldiers' attention, and stole a horse. And then she ended up getting the guy shot by a crossbow. That's it. She didn't do anything to fight for the people or resist while enslaved. She literally says she doesn't know what's going on in the outside world. But the movie really wants to tell you she really did fight for them and give them hope. The film is literally trying to gaslight you that Snow is remarkable and achieved something really meaningful to earn this guy's love, which she didn't. The guy falling in love with Snow is a hollow payoff that is not at all earned. This also undermines the true love kiss scene because their love is built on nothing. Contrast this with the relationship with the live-action Cinderella, where they managed to get the two characters to fall completely in love in a single scene. And it feels totally believable. Their personalities shine through and each line feeds into the other, where each character becomes more attracted to the other based on what they are saying and how the other expresses views, outlooks, and character traits that the other admires and loves.
Do they treat you well?
Better than I deserve, most likely. And you?
They treat me as well as they are able.
I'm sorry.
It's not your doing.
Nor yours either, I'll bet.
It's not so very bad. Others have it worse, I'm sure. We must simply have courage and be kind, mustn't we?
Yes. You're right. That's exactly how I feel.
Please don't let them hurt him.
But we're hunting, you see. It's what's done.
Just because it's what's done doesn't mean it's what should be done.
Right again.
Then you'll leave him alone, won't you?
I will.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kid.
Where in Snow White and the many interactions and scenes between the loverboy and Snow, where it all comes off like they should hate each other, and the true love's kiss, which should be the biggest moment in the film, is pathetically hollow and void as a result. And then we come to the conclusion of the film, and there are multiple robbed payoffs that kind of come one after the other that ruin any investment or enjoyment. Snow White comes back alive thanks to the supposed true love's kiss, and unlike the original, where that was the finale and the Queen had met her untimely death thanks to the dwarves chasing her up a mountain in a storm where she fell to her death, here the dwarves do nothing and Snow must lead a rebellion to overthrow the Queen. Wow, that's like a movie in and of its own. How the hell will Snow achieve this in the last 10 minutes of the film? Well, by simply walking into town and expecting everyone to come to her side. Which they do, even though it's been established in the beginning that the Princess Snow White has not been seen for so many years that no one even knows or remembers what she looks like anymore. But that's conveniently changed now. Everyone knows who she is and comes to her side because she's just that entitled. Reality literally warps to give her exactly what she wants. Then the Queen, instead of sending out her soldiers and suppressing this burgeoning rebellion, conveniently walks out of the castle to confront Snow White herself, even giving Snow a dagger, and the Queen tells Snow to kill her. Now, I would have laughed if Snow just stabbed her right then and there, but because Snow is actually useless and doesn't really do or achieve anything of her own merit, she, of course, doesn't do anything, and the Queen takes the dagger back, giving it to a soldier and telling him to go kill Snow White instead. Snow simply tells the soldier his name and how nice he was in the past. And that is enough to turn an evil henchman to her side and defy the evil, all-powerful Queen who could murder his family who are actually standing right there in the crowd. His flip doesn't come off as believable in any measure, nor do the other soldiers who all magically turn to Snow White's side because she remembers their names. It's another unearned payoff where Snow White doesn't do nearly enough to inspire the henchmen to change their ways, but because reality warps itself to Snow's entitled whims, they do. She is just that amazing. The Queen takes the dagger and tries to kill Snow, where she is saved by a dwarf. Not by anything Snow does, she's useless, and not by any of the 7 dwarves. No, they're also useless in this film, even though they're literally the ones who defeated the Queen in the animation. Instead of casting actual dwarf actors to play the 7 dwarves, they throw in a token little person role amongst the bandit hippies. And it is that dwarf who shoots the crossbow that knocks the dagger out of the Queen's hand. It's actually funny, like the single token role makes up for the lost 7 leading roles the others might have had. Good work there, Peter Dinklage. The Queen seems to forget that she can do magic and just runs away into her castle where the mirror tells her she's not the fairest, and she smashes the mirror, which then happens to kill her for reasons. Yes, that's it. The Queen literally kills herself because she didn't like what the mirror said. And Snow or the dwarves did nothing. Wow, this film is so bad. But we're not done yet. Here are some of the convoluted moments in the film that just make you shake your head in, sheer confusion. The king just happened to leave the kingdom based on some rumors spread by the Queen. Up and leaves his whole kingdom. I mean, send some scouts, send an army. Don't go off yourself, not until a full-blown war is upon you. I mean, holy crap, but nah, he's just gone and out of the picture. The Loverboy bandit gets tied to the outer gate early on in the film with flimsy rope that anyone could get out of. But Snow is the one who unties him out in the open where anyone could see her disobeying the Queen, but just too dumb to realize that. And of course, the evil Queen is watching the whole thing out in the open. Snow White is wearing a peasant dress when serving in the castle because she's basically a slave, and when given leave to go outside and pick apples, another manual job, she's suddenly wearing her classic princess dress for that. I mean, the context of the film literally establishes that she's no longer treated like a princess. So there is no reason why she would have been given her iconic dress for that task. When Snow White runs through the forest, she falls through a hole in the ground and lands in a stream of water, underground for some reason, and it's not explained, they just move past that. The dwarves are now literally hundreds of years old, but have never heard a person whistle before or even know what that is. After Snow White ditches the dwarves and goes off to fight the Queen, she magically runs into the bandit she freed before in the middle of a cursed forest at the exact time when she was about to be found by the Queen's soldiers. Oh, so convolutedly convenient, isn't it? Reality warping itself yet again to save Snow from her own uselessness. The bandits decide to fight armoured soldiers when outnumbered 2-1 with only sticks and rocks in their hands, and they don't get slaughtered wholesale, which in reality, yeah, totally they would. It would have literally been suicide, but they choose to fight anyway because they know they will be protected by the convoluted plot. Loverboy takes an arrow for Snow, which she doesn't even realise, even though it happened right in front of her, and he is literally fighting for his life, even though the arrow bolt landed in his shoulder. But regardless, it's so deadly that he is on death's door and he is miraculously saved by the dwarf Doc, who acts like an idiot but still saves him through the power of stupidity. And I'm not kidding, Doc thought he killed the guy, he was so incompetent, but never mind, the plot saves Loverboy anyway. Even though Snow White didn't even realize or thank the guy for saving her life, multiple times mind you, and the fact that she's acted like an entitled brat, he now falls in love with her. For reasons that I cannot fathom because they are not present in this story. Loverboy goes off to look for Snow's dad, but immediately walks into a net trap that was seemingly placed randomly in the forest, but the plot demanded that he is captured at this point in time, so he just so happens to walk over the single place in a giant forest where the soldiers placed a net trap down, even though they would have no idea anyone might walk past that spot. The Queen, who sent out her entire army to find Snow, realized that she can find Snow easily with her bird familiar, but instead of using that to lead her army to capture or kill Snow, the Queen decides to make a far more convoluted and retarded plan to turn into the classic witch and give Snow a poisoned apple. Do you see what I mean about the expanded world in this version making the plot far more stupid? The Queen now has an army already searching the forest, so why is she going herself if she can find Snow so easily? Just get your bird to show the army which way to go, you moron. Also, why use the poison apple now? There's no need. You have soldiers that could have gone with you. The expanded parts of this remake utterly ruin the classic plot points, some of which did need a bit more further justification as they were, but now instead of giving us that justification, like they did in the Cinderella remake, like expanding why there was a demand that the prince marry a princess, who the prince was, or many other parts of the classic tale that needed more explanation, this Snow White remake makes things actually worse and more nonsensical. The live-action Snow White is a very bad film, and an even worse remake. It completely misses the point of what fairy tales are supposed to be, which doesn't surprise me because such a thing is utterly lost on current-day Disney. You see, at the core, most fairy tales resonate with deep, timeless truths. That is why they have lasted so long, whether it be a cautionary tale with a message that we can learn from, or if it be an inspiring tale showing the complementary roles of men and women through the many depictions of the damsel in distress trope, or if it's a tale of hope and true love, or all of those combined. And it is due to these timeless truths why Disney is currently incapable of making a good fairy tale story, because the company and most of the people within it resent and are actively trying to subvert those truths that most fairy tales are founded on. If the people in that company don't even know what a woman is, they will never be able to tell a tale that most women will resonate with. Snow White in the classic animation is a damsel in distress that needs to be saved, and her classic feminine goodness inspires others to want to save her. She wasn't a girl boss who's determined to save herself, lead a revolution, or act so entitled, stuck up, and selfish that the people around her, who do choose to save her, don't have any justification in the plot to actually want to. And just like the false heart that the huntsman gave to the evil queen, this Snow White live action is a cheap imitation of the original that doesn't possess a fraction of the heart or truth that caused so many to fall in love with it in the first place and made it a timeless classic. So until next time, stay on watch.